What is if you had to pick one, your favorite moment as Raw GM?
Chuck and Billy. The Chuck and Billy wedding. I said somebody here tonight. Raise your hand or scream out loud. You brought me a big 8x10 of me in that full makeup, right over here. It's f***ing awesome. I told you, right? I said that was the most fun I ever had as a character, doing anything, NWO, anything. That scene where I was in that rubber mask and dressed up like an old man. We are gathered here today on this occasion to honor the dearly Chuck and Billy. And if you can say one thing that takes more than three, did I just hear myself say 3 minutes? That was so f***ing awesome. That was so well written. The makeup artists, I mean, WWE probably spent $30 to $40, maybe $50,000 to pull that off. They flew me out to Los Angeles. I went to a studio that specializes in special effects for feature films. I walked into the studio, and it's gigantic. And they have examples of their past work, of all the things that they've done for feature films, makeup and masks and all this stuff. It was like every major film I've ever seen, they did when it came to special effects and makeup. I spent a full day in Los Angeles. You know, they put my face in a mud cast. I had to sit there like for 4 hours in a mud cast with straws in my nose so I could breathe. But they took a mold of my face, and then they made the rubber mask. And that took them about a month to actually create the mask that I ended up wearing. Then the day of the show, and it was in Minneapolis where I used to live, I had to get to the arena. I think it was the Target Center at the time. I had to get the arena. Normally, I never had to get to the building till about noon or 1 o'clock as talent. I had to get there at 9 o'clock in the morning because then they had to fly 3 makeup artists from Los Angeles to Minneapolis to apply this mask and to create that look. And it took them about 6 hours. I sat in a chair for almost 6 hours getting this thing applied. And when I finally got done, I stood up and I looked at myself and I almost had a f***ing heart attack. So what happened to me? God damn. I'm never going to come to Minneapolis again. The water sucks here. But it was so cool. I got to tell you a little sidebar story. So this character, there was a guy that used to work at WCW. His name was Jim Barnett. And Jim and I were friends, and I'd go to his office almost every morning because he would say, "My boy, do you have any dirt today?" Because he just loved like the Dave Meltzer, he just loved the drama and the dirt and all the crap. Have you heard about this? And I loved Jim. He was so much fun. I started my day every day listening to Jim. But he had this kind of a very, like Truman Capote kind of thing, So I said, when I'm in this old guy character, I'm going to have that same voice. And my father was paralyzed at a very young age. And he would hold his hand in a certain way. So I just kind of put it all together. And I came out there and I was hunched over and I'm doing this. But I had to practice it all day long because I'd never done anything like that before. So after I got this makeup on, I'm walking around backstage in the Target Center. Now I'm in full makeup. And I'm walking around, "Hey, young lady, how are you?" And here's the funny part. So I look over because I grew up in Minneapolis. I went to high school in Minneapolis. I was on a high school wrestling team, and I did a bunch of stuff in amateur wrestling. But there was a guy by the name of Brad Ringens who eventually he went on to work in WWF. He trained Van Vader. He trained a lot of the guys that came up through Vergania's territory. There was a lot of them. But he was an amateur wrestler at the same time. He was a year older than me. But I knew him. He went to a different high school. But I was very well aware of him because he was a great amateur wrestler. He was a heavyweight. I was 145 pounds, so we never competed against each other. But he was like a superstar amateur wrestler when we were in high school. And he went on to college, became very successful. And I think he made the Olympic team that the year that Jimmy Carter canceled the Olympics. Brad Ringens was actually competed and won a spot on the U.S. Olympic team, even though the U.S. didn't compete that year. So Brad and I had been friends since high school. We used to hunt together. Brad was friendly with my son. We've known each other for a long time. So I see Brad Ringens backstage. He'd come over to say hello to some friends that he had in WWE. So Brad's standing there, and he had his two stepdaughters with him. One of them was like 10, one of them was like 8. And Brad is a very, he's not an outgoing person. He's a very shy person, right? So he was just standing back there by himself with his two little stepdaughters, just minding his own business. And I saw him. Hey, little girl. You smell really nice. Joe Biden, no right? He stole my I created that character. That mucker father. It's not fair. But I literally now, by the way, Brad Ringens, his head was this big. His shoulders were this wide. He could have ripped my arms and legs off and picked his teeth with them. He was that much of a badass. But I was dressed up like an 80-year-old man. You're not going to beat the out of an 80-year-old guy, right? I don't care who you are. So I'm going up, I'm smelling his stepdaughter, and I said, little girl, I have some candy in my room. I you not. And I'm looking at Brad, and he did not know what to do. He was like, what do I do? And I never told him it was me. I just walked away. I'll be back in a little while.
This is taking a turn, everybody.
No, that's not even the best part. So the best part, Brad stays for the show. He's backstage. He's got his stepdaughters. He never realized it was me under the mask. Then he was watching on a monitor, and I pull my mask off, and it's me, and now he's hot. Because I ripped him so bad. I thought he was going to kill me.